Priscilla was born in Kerala on December 27th, 1937 to Felsi and Mirad de Cruz. The youngest of 6 children she had from her young days and urged to go to United States to pursue her higher education. So, once she had obtained her graduation from the famous Madras Presidency College, she landed in 1961 at Fordham University to do her PhD in English, which she accomplished in 1970. It was fulfillment of cherished desire. Earlier in 1967, on January 28, she got married to Ven Parameswaran, who she had met some time earlier in New York. 49 years after she landed in US, today she lives with her husband Ven Parameswaran in Scarsdale and is happy to have highly distinguished son Prem Parameswaran, who was recently appointed member of President Trump's Advisory Commission to Asian American and Pacific Islanders AAPI, and 2 talented granddaughters, Trinity and Kayla, and a sporting wizard of a grandson, Hudson.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Parameswaran, and I live in this house with my husband Ven. We've been living here for over 50 years.
Both Priscilla and Ven Parameswaran love to cook. It is another matter that the tastes of 2 diverse. Ven, being a Brahmin, was a strict vegetarian before he got married. Priscilla loved non-vegetarian food, but over the years, Ven has taught Priscilla to cook vegetarian food and Priscilla had taught Ven to cook and eat non-vegetarian meals. Priscilla developed liking for music early in life when her mother taught her to sing. Priscilla was member of school and church choir. Piano was her favorite instrument, which she even now plays at times.
Our parents instilled in us love of music, and when we were children, very little children, we were taught the piano. And so we studied piano from then. But then at that time, as children, we didn't like it. So what we did was, after that, we didn't want to play the piano. And for a long time, we didn't play. And now I've forgotten everything.
An avid reader and writer, Priscilla has written a children's book on Diwali. The book is titled Trinity and Friends Enjoy Diwali.
I've always been interested in children's books, and when I saw my little granddaughter, who was 3 at that time, enjoying Diwali, with all her friends, I decided that I was going to write a book about that, and that's when I wrote the book Trinity and Friends Enjoy Diwali, and I had it published last year.
Which is available on Amazon. Incidentally, she wrote this book for her granddaughter Trinity. Also, she has written essays and articles for various publications. Ven admires her command over English language. Priscilla fondly recalls the household she grew in. Her mother, Felsi de Cruz, was homemaker who ensured her children got the best education, spoke correctly, walked dignifiedly, and sang melodiously. She was the best teacher to her children. She had great influence on Priscilla and her siblings.
And this is my mother, who really shaped all our lives, my life in particular. I am so grateful to my mother for all that she taught me as a child. My mother, on the other hand, was very helpful to the people whenever they needed help. they always came to her and asked her. And that in turn taught all of us that we should also help people in need. Whenever there's somebody in need, my parents taught us that if we are able to help them, we should go to their help.
Priscilla's father, Mirad de Cruz, was a highly educated man and a well-known journalist who later joined the police department where he was an inspector. The community held him in high esteem.
This is my father. He was the police inspector of Quailon and a very well-respected person.
As a matter of fact, the whole town used to come to him for advice or when they were in trouble of some kind. He was an all-round man.
I went to school in Kerala, India, Mount Carmel High School. Mount Carmel High School was one of the best high schools in Kerala, in this particular town called Tangassery. People from all over Kerala try to bring their children to this particular school. And it's very difficult to get admission in that school, Mount Carmel School. I studied there up to high school. I was always one of the best students in the school, and that's thanks to my mother. My mother was responsible for helping all of us, my siblings and me, to be the best in studies. When I finished my high school, I went to the local college, Fatima College in Quailon, studied my intermediate. At that time, the degrees were the intermediate. You did 2 years for your intermediate, and after that, you studied in the same place and you got your BA or MA or BA honors, whatever. After I studied intermediate, I got admission to Presidency College in Madras, and I went there to do my BA honors. And after BA honors at Presidency, I came to the United States for higher education. While at Presidency, I did have a very full-rounded education. I was in the National Cadet Corps, and I was the president of the English Honors Association. I was also the president of the hostel where I lived. So I did live a very active life while I was there, and a very full life. And these, I should say, thanks to the influence of my parents, who taught us to get involved and to be involved in everything that we could. I was awarded a scholarship to study piloting by the Government of India. And that's when I studied piloting at the Kerala Flying Club before coming to the United States. Of course, I did not take my solo. If I had taken my solo, I would have had to spend a few more months in India, and then I would have lost my scholarship here to study here. But I wanted to study. I was very anxious to study here, so I came here. And I wanted to do my PhD here at Fordham University, which I did. I also worked at the United Nations as an editorial control officer for some time. After I finished all my coursework for my PhD and before I started writing my thesis. So that gave me a very good exposure to the work experience in the United States. I also worked at the Institute of International Education. I was responsible for the scholarships awarded to the students to the Fulbright students coming from India on a Fulbright scholarship to America. And then, after I finished my PhD, I was employed by IBM as an executive in their corporate communications department. And I worked in corporate communications for 20 years. During that period, there were several awards that I received from IBM in various departments. When you're outstanding in a particular area, IBM rewards you and gives you an award. And like that, I received quite a number of awards from IBM. After I retired from IBM, I went into teaching, and I was a professor of English, an adjunct professor of English at 3 different colleges, at Iona College, Mercy College, and Westchester Community College. So I got my teaching experience also, and then I became a real estate broker, and I'm to this day a real estate broker with the firm of Claire D. Leone and Associates. By the way, Claire, the person who founded that real estate company, is a very good friend of mine, and she wanted me to join her company and encouraged me to, which I did, and I'm glad I did.
Sometime in the month of July 1966, Priscilla came across a young man from her native state of Kerala who has been making advances to her for some time. This young man, Ven Parameswaran, a few months later, on January 28, 1967, came to be known as Priscilla's husband.
I came to America to study. I was not only interested in studies, I was very involved in extracurricular activities. And when the Indian ambassador to the United Nations called some of the students here who were here at that time to come to his house to help India with the floods India was having, I very enthusiastically went there. And that's where I met my husband to be at the Indian ambassador's house. And that was the greatest gift that came out of that particular meeting.
It was called Indians for Collective Action, but only collective action which came out of it was our marriage. And Ambassador Arthur Lal, who was former ambassador to the UN, was also very happy and delighted when the marriage took place, and he was the one who gave the first toast for our marriage at the Columbia University Club.
And at that time he said, this is the first collective action that has happened. He really liked the fact that we met each other, we fell in love and got married.
I had been living in America for almost 10 years at that time, and I was very anxious to meet a good Indian girl and get married, although I had many American friends. And I was looking for, and at this association meeting, when Ambassador Lal suggested Priscilla should be the chairman of the Indians for Collective Action Committee, I was impressed. I saw her, how she was speaking and how she was, his mannerisms, everything impressed me. Especially her diction, the way she spoke English, I was impressed. Even today, I'm impressed with her ability to speak English, especially her diction. She's one of the very distinguished speakers I know. So fortunately, Ambassador put us, I also joined that same committee, really with the, my motive was to get to know her. And then there were 3 people in the committee, and it was decided to hold the first meeting. One was living in New Jersey, and Priscilla was in Bronx. I was in Manhattan, centrally located. So I suggested, why not we meet in my place? So the meeting took place in my place. That's where I personally met Priscilla. She drove from Bronx. Of course, she had said, I don't know how to go back, and it will be so late, so I don't want to come to your place, she had said. And I said, I'll escort you, don't worry. Then you'll have to come back, it doesn't matter. So I drove in her car. That's the first time I was traveling with her after we met. Then I came back. So I achieved, that was my first achievement, that meeting.
And yes, and that was a very congenial meeting. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did have a very good meeting. That
Yeah.
was,
And then we were engaged for 6 months. No, we went out for 6 months and got engaged and got married.
yeah, and I must say that Ven is my prized possession. He was my best achievement in the United States. I know I got my PhD, which is a big accomplishment, but I owe it to him. He was responsible. After we got married, he made sure that I stayed focused and that I continued my studies and got my PhD. Thanks to Ven.
Ven was also doing his PhD and was working with the United Nations. Earlier, he has had some other assignments which got him in touch with top Indian diplomats. Later, Ven started his own enterprise and did well in the financial sector. The two got married on January 28, 1967. Their wedding reception was attended by a large number of diplomats, colleagues and friends.
A wedding reception was organized at the Columbia University Club, and it was attended by all senior Indians in the United Nations Secretariat and all diplomats of the Indian mission to the UN at that time. And I had also invited fellow diplomats from other missions. So it was quite a diplomatic reception as well as a marriage reception.
I was very impressed. Yeah, I was very impressed.
On October 4th, 1968, a year and a half after their marriage, Parameswarans were blessed with a son, Prem Parameswaran, who was later to become one of the most successful and best known persons of Indian origin in the United States of America. In 1970, the family moved from New York City to suburban Scarsdale, primarily with the objective of giving best possible school education to their son. And Scarsdale was known to be the best school district in the state of New York. The couple has lived in Scarsdale since then. Priscilla dotes on her grandchildren. The children's book she wrote was to please her eldest granddaughter, Trinity. All these grandchildren of Parameswarans are extremely talented and they are deeply loved.
We have three grandchildren.
Three beautiful grandchildren, 2 girls and a boy. And we love to spend time with our grandchildren, and our grandchildren also like to spend time with us. We go to our grandchildren are also involved not just in sports alone, but in other activities. And they go to a private school, Right Country Day. So we go to most of their activities in Right Country Day. Whenever there's a function and they're involved, we are there. And we also go to their games.
The Trinity is now 14, Kayla is 11, and Hudson is 9. Hudson is a very good ice hockey player, and he has been the leading player in his team. It's very delightful to watch him. And Kayla is a good soccer player. Yesterday she won the championship of a select team. Trinity is also an excellent soccer player, and she has been admitted, she was selected by the Right Country Day varsity team when she was in 8th grade. Now she is in 9th grade, and she also plays for another select New York State team. That team represented the United States in London. She went to London also to play with the teams there. All the 3 children are academically also excellent, and we are grateful to God.
Yeah. The 3 kids also play golf at the Purchase Country Club and the Winged Foot Golf Club. And recently, the 2 girls won the awards. Trinity and for the father-daughter game, they came out first. And Kayla and our son came out 3rd. So they have been good in golf also. And they've been getting all the awards.
Parameswarans are fond of traveling. The 2 have traveled most of Europe and parts of Asia and South America. They enjoy traveling, seeing places and meeting people.
We have traveled to different countries. At the end of the first year, we celebrated our first anniversary in Puerto Rico. And 1968, we went to India. I introduced Priscilla to my family, father and mother, brothers and sisters, nephews and nieces. We spent 2 months in India.
And I introduced Ven to all my relatives, to my brothers and sisters, and my friends too.
Then in 1970, we went to Canada. We were in Montreal, we were in Ottawa,
Quebec.
and we saw the beautiful country of Canada, enjoyed. We also visited the McGill University there. Wherever we go, we always look for the top university and we feel like visiting them. So we have visited almost many universities in the world. I could mention that. For example, we visited McGill in Canada, Oxford in Cambridge in England, Heidelberg University in Germany, Sorbonne in France, and Ireland. Ireland also Cambridge. There is a Cambridge University in Ireland. We visited in 1977. We took Prem and visited Mexico. We were in Acapulco. It was most enjoyable. It's a great city. Acapulco is, although Mexico is poor, Mexico has very good tourist attractions. Acapulco was one of them. And Prem was thrilled when we saw a man diving from almost a mountain to the ocean. He was thrilled. We also saw in Mexico a cockfight.
And a soccer match we went to.
We also went to the bullfight. 100,000 people were there watching in Mexico. That was first time we saw the bullfight. 1977, we visited Italy for 2 weeks. We were in Rome, we were in Vatican.
Venice.
In Vatican, we visited Sixtine Chapel. That was the most impressive. The paintings of Michelangelo. And the church itself is something everybody should see, irrespective of their religion. The Vatican, that is the headquarters of Catholic religion, where Pope's office is located.
We had an audience with the Pope.
We had an audience with the Pope. Yes, I remember that. And then we were in Florence. Florence had many statues and museums and churches. In Italy, especially, in every city has so many prominent churches we visited. Actually, we took a bus tour of the entire Italy. And Venice was one of the most attractive tourist attraction for us. We enjoyed Venice on the waters. And our son Prem also enjoyed very much.
La notte viene,
St. Mark's Square. When we see the 007 movies, we connect ourselves that we were there. We went to Pizza, the Leaning Tower of Pizza. Our son Prem climbed it 3 times. He was only 8 years at that time, 7 years. He enjoyed climbing the Tower of Pizza 3 times. In Rome, we saw all the major attractions. Colosseum. Prem was so much impressed with seeing the Colosseum and the historical. Of course, I was also impressed. I have seen it 3 times. We have practically visited many countries with the exception of China, Japan and Russia. And of course some South American countries like Brazil, Argentina. In Africa also we have only visited, Priscilla has visited Israel. I didn't accompany her. I have visited Egypt. We have visited United Arab Emirates, Dubai. Otherwise, Africa we have not gone.
So we hope to go to China someday and Russia, God willing.
Parameswarans are socially and politically deeply and extensively involved. Priscilla started way back in 1988 the Asian American Republican Committee with a view of empowering the growing South Asian community. She has been the Westchester Chairman and National Vice Chairman of the Indian American Forum for Political Education, started by Joy Chadian.
As the Indian American community was growing in the United States, when it was about 250,000 people in the United States total, we were achieving academically and career-wise, but we were complete zero in politics, and we were not heard. So some of our leaders in the community, such as Joy Cherian, who started the Indian American Forum for Political Education, was emphasizing the importance of politics and political education for the community. This is where we also seized the initiative of forming chapters, and I want to congratulate Priscilla, who is the founder of Indian American Forum for Political Education chapter in Westchester County.
I also decided to do was to get involved in the Republican Committee, and I founded the Asian American Republican Committee because I knew that that would be a better title than Indian American, and we could draw more people. And the local chairman called me and asked me if I would start the organization, and that's how I started the organization in 1988. And the organization grew, and the organization was the only organization for Asian Americans in the Republican Party. We celebrated our 25th anniversary. It was a big celebration, quite a number. All the elected officials of Westchester came to the function, and we received congratulatory letters from President Bush and other leaders in the country. Now, prior to that, when I found out that the Indian Americans were excelling in everything but in politics, we were on the highest rung of the ladder economically. We were on the highest rung of the educational ladder. 50% of all the PhDs awarded in this country were to Asian Americans, and of that 50% were to Indian Americans. So I said to myself, we do have to get involved in the political process. We got involved in the political process then, and today, 28 years later, we have quite a number of Indian Americans running for elected office in various areas, as legislators, as senators, as congressmen. And I am very happy because I know that I was a pioneer in that area. I organized a town meeting here in Scarsdale for all the elected officials to meet the Indian Americans. And I wanted the Indian Americans to get free and to get involved with all the elected officials. It was done here in the library, the Scarsdale Library, where all the elected officials came, and Indian Americans, not only from Scarsdale, but from the neighboring towns came. And we had a gathering of about 300 people meeting all these elected officials. And from then on, it took off. Indian Americans started getting involved in the political process. And today, we are all very involved. We have congressmen, senators, legislators, You name it, we have it. Even on school boards and in every area, we have Indian Americans getting involved. And that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I've achieved.
Priscilla's contributions to community affairs and especially Republican committee received wide publicity. New York Times ran a feature story in 1988 on Priscilla. The reporters came to our house here to interview her and me, and this was a big publicity. Even though Priscilla was not elected nationally, she received national acclaim through New York Times Sunday story. Similarly, on a national level, we have elected 2 Indian American governors, Nikki Haley and Bobby Jindal, and we supported them also from the very beginning.
And they have been very thankful to us, grateful to us for having done that. Now, at the Republican conventions, I was a delegate for 2 of the Republican conventions, delegate from New York. And I was also an alternate delegate. So we have been able to do a lot for the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is very thankful to us for that.
Let's go back to the crowd here, Mr. Trump. Dr. Priscilla Parameswaran of Scarsdale, New York. She's married with 1 son, registered Republican, and a supporter of yours.
Thank you.
Mr. Trump, your wife Melania suggested that you be presidential. Can you tell us some of the things that you have done to be more presidential?
Well, it's true. Melania would like me to not hit as hard sometimes, and yet, you know, when I started, we had 17 people, and I was being hit from every angle by governors and senators and really smart and wonderful people. He endorsed me, Ben Carson and others, and Chris Christie, another one. And, you know, you're being hit pretty hard. I felt that I had to hit back very hard. And I think if I didn't, if I acted very presidential, I wouldn't be sitting up here today. Somebody else might be. It wouldn't be me. So I will tell you, it's easier for me to be presidential than for me to be doing what I've been doing for the last really 9 months. But at the right time, I will be so presidential, you will be so bored, you will say, can he have a little bit more energy? But I know when to be presidential. We have 2 more left. They have absolutely no path to victory. In fact, it was announced this morning, they have no path to victory. And we have a very easy path to victory, and I think they'll be gone very soon.
On the Democratic side of things.
2 good people, but I think they'll be gone very soon.
Recently, our son Prem was nominated to the Asian Pacific American Republican Committee on the national level. So he's on the board. He's one of the advisors to President Donald Trump as an Asian American. And he's very active in that group. We also attended 2 Diwalis at the White House, invited by President Trump.
For their work and contribution, both Priscilla and Ven have been recognized and honored by a number of organizations on various occasions. The only son of Ven and Priscilla Parameswaran, Prem Parameswaran, has made his parents and the country proud in every way. Prem Parameswaran is Group CFO and President of North America for Eros International, a global Indian entertainment company. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity, says Psalm 1331.
I could have danced all night, I could have danced all night, and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done 1,000 things I've never done before. I'll never know what made it so exciting, why all at once my heart took flight. I only know when he began to dance with me, I could have danced all night.
Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair, and she be fair, and she